Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's episode number 253 of the Audible Farm Podcast, and this episode is brought to you by the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association. Go to www.fdfineartsassociation.org to find out more about their cause. Be sure to check out their podcast, too. It's called FDT. It's really fun. You can find a link to that right on their website, and the link is right down below, so check them out. And thank you, Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association. This episode, I'm sitting down with Jefferson Fosbender. Jeff Fosbender, he was on an episode in the past. He's one of my favorite guys to just kind of sit down and talk with. I think he's just like really easy to talk to. He definitely has a lot of ideas about things, and that's one of the things I like about talking with him. I can bounce these ideas I've had off of him, and I watch how like he implements things maybe slightly differently. And that's a good fresh take on things. And a good example of that would be the podcast that the band Stadium Drive has just released. And let's see here, as this episode comes out, they have 2 episodes out as we recorded this. So be sure to check it out. It's on their YouTube channel. It's also on Spotify. So be sure to check that out. I'll have links down below. We talk about that. We talk about what all has changed since the last time he was on the podcast. It's been a lot of time. So a lot of things have changed. This is a fun episode, sitting down with a fun guy. It's Jefferson Fosbender.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
Sitting down today with Jefferson Fosbender. Jefferson, do you want to go by Jeff or Jefferson? Because I always call you Jeff Fosbender, and I think it sounds kind of weird because your name is Jefferson. Like everyone calls you Jefferson.
I feel like the folks who know me like from high school and before just called me Jeff. That's what I went by. I started going by Jefferson in college. So I think like in the professional setting, maybe it's like my alter ego. I don't know.
Okay.
But no, I think you can call me Jeff. That's fine.
All right, Jeff. Jeff Fosbender. So you've actually been on the podcast before. You were on the podcast, episode 165, which this is like in the 250s somewhere now. So let's see here. That was in 2021. So it was November 18th, 2021 at that time.
That's actually wild. I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah, so let's see here. It's been 4 years-ish, three and a half years or something like that, which it really doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but at the same time, that's kind of the fun part about this podcast. So if anybody listened to that one, if you haven't, you didn't know it existed, go listen to it, kind of see what the snapshot was at that time. But that time you were playing with Tank Anthony Band, and now you're kind of more known as the guy in Stadium Drive. So can we talk about like how the transition happened? Like you are the Stadium Drive singer, you are one of the songwriters, you are one of the music composers, et cetera, et cetera. But how did you get to that point? Like what made you kind of want to go out and start writing your own music?
Yeah, I think, well, Stadium Drive was kind of a project that was built to be an original music project.
Okay.
Alex and I were both in the Tank Anthony Band. He still is. And right around that time, I kind of got a full-time job and was kind of doing some, changes personally. I decided to step down from that group. And at the time, Alex and I, we had both been writing kind of songs in this folk kind of classic rock sort of era. But we didn't have an outlet for it. We had just kind of decided that we might want to do some type of duo thing. And so, yeah, we showed the songs to each other, and it ended up that we saw it becoming a full project.
Okay. So you guys just basically, you were friends beforehand was basically what it was. You played in the same band before, you guys kind of knew each other, and you guys kind of wrote your songs. But did you write these songs independently and show them to each other? Like did he write some and you wrote some, and then it was just like, well, these are all kind of in the same vein, or? Yeah,
so that's actually, we get this question all the time, and it's kind of all of the above. There have been songs where I wrote 100% of it, and Alex just kind of put a stamp on it. There have been songs where I have like 50% of it, and it's not, maybe like I can't find the hook, or maybe there's like a bridge that's needed or something to that effect. And then Alex works his, music theory magic and kind of gets it across the finish line.
Yeah.
And then there's the completely opposite end of the spectrum where Alex says, hey, I wrote this song when I was like 17 and I never did anything with it. Like, do you want to check it out? And so And then, yeah, we sort of just, flesh it out. And so, yeah, it's definitely a mix.
That's pretty wild. Yeah. I mean, especially with, Alex being one of those guys, I'm sure. I always feel like the people that are in that music area where it's like he went to music school and kind of learned how to record and do all this stuff anyways. So he probably just sat down and recorded a bunch of like nonsensical things to him that, later when you pick them back up, you're like, oh, if I add this to it, now it becomes an actual thing,
What's actually even cooler than that is almost none of it was pre-recorded. It's just a notebook. I don't know if you've ever seen Alex's handwriting, but it looks like he did it blindfolded.
Yeah.
But it's this notebook that's just full of lyrics, and so and he just has it all in his head, what the chords were, what the melodies were, and so some of these things like had not come to life. There's a really great example is on the first record. There's a song called "Easier Said Than Done."
Okay.
He had basically created this chord progression, and he's like, I don't know what a melody is here. I just kind of have this, and you play around with it, see if you like it, and then he taught it to me. I played through it, and came up with the lyrics and melody, and now all of a sudden it's this thing where he's like, I never thought that could have turned out to be what it is, and now it's like one of the favorites.
Oh, wow. That's pretty wild, especially when it's something where you're like, oh, if you're like, I don't really know if I don't know. There's a lot of stuff where I don't ever record things. And I've talked about that on past podcasts where it's like, you have this idea and you're like, this is neat. And then it just goes away. But I think about that. Like if I had recorded things, you could just like show it to somebody and they could be like, it could be the spark they need to take it to the next level, and it's really kind of fun because you think like, I think about this where it's like, well, Alex went to, music school for this. He should be able to come up with something for everything. But it's like, well, even there are limitations to everything though, too, where it's like a fresh set of eyes or, it's something you've never heard before even.
The thing that, and again, like Alex, he's got his Berkeley background. He's, this tremendous like jazz musician, country, folk, rock, whatever it is. But there's a song on our second record that it's 2 chords. The chorus has a third chord in it. And so here's a song that Alex wrote. It's literally E and A. And he wrote a melody, he wrote lyrics on top of it. And here's something, again, he had never recorded it. It's just something that lived in his notebook. And he's like, this thing, I just don't really know kind of what to do with it. And I'm like, hey, well, maybe we can trade verses. Maybe we do some cool vocal things. And, we hit some harmonies in some parts. And then because it's 2 chords, let's maybe just make this huge open section where you can just solo and go nuts. And and so now all of a sudden he's like, again, this probably would have lived in his notebook for the rest of time. But he showed it to me, and then we were able to kind of just build the song as we went.
I love that because I feel like that's also like one of those jam night things, or I feel like that's one of the best parts about certain bands, especially in the like North Central Iowa area that we know that like have changed and morphed over time. Because it's just like a lot of it is, and I'm not trying to like break it down to be simple. Like a lot of songs are just like, well, here's 2 chords or 3 chords for most of the song minus a small change, and that's what a lot of songs are anyways. So like it's fun to hear what different people's influences are on that, or like what you can kind of feel like you can adapt a song into and change it. Because there are songs that have been recorded by people we know that when you go watch them live, it's completely different now, or whatever. Because as the years have changed and things have changed, it's just how they choose to do it, which is kind of fun how that works out. Do you guys have any songs like that where you recorded them a certain way and you go play them live and it's different?
Yeah, we have. There are actually some that I listened to on the first record. I go back and I kind of wish we had waited to record them until after they had kind of lived and breathed for a while, because we, the ones where we did it the opposite way, where we were playing them live for months, you can feel it. It just has a little bit more of a live kind of like sense of urgency. Whereas, the ones where they were just kind of studio tracks, not to say that they don't still have kind of that drive to it, but I think now we're learning, the song's teaching us how it should be played over time. And like, it's kind of informing, how maybe we would have recorded it if we could go back.
And that makes sense. Because I mean, there's like a certain energy when you play a song live, how you can kind of, I don't want to say like you're playing it up to the band or like the people watching you or anything like that, but like there's a certain energy that comes out while you're playing a song that you just kind of feel a certain way. And the more you play it, the more you have this, you get comfortable in certain spots that you might not have even noticed had you only played the song 2 or 3 times or whatever, only played it in the studio to record it or whatever it might be, you know. Plus it's almost like in the comedy world, like making a joke and it's funny to you and 2 other guys sitting in a room, but then you go out and tell it in front of a bunch of people and they're like, whoa, tone it down a little bit there, big man. You know, so It's like one of those deals where it's like, man, had I just fledged this out a little bit, I could have made this, you know, something that was a little bit different that could have been, I don't know, more palatable in the end for everybody because we figured out this formula that worked, unfortunately, afterwards.
And you play with Jesse all the time, kind of a duo acoustic setting. And you know that when you're just 2 acoustic guitars and vocals, you can kind of play with the tempo. You can, you know, kind of play with like volume and dynamics and all these things because it's just kind of two inputs that are, you know, you can be a little bit more loose. And when you're in the studio playing to the click, it's just a little harder to get some of those nuances. Like there are songs where we slow things way down, you know, just to give the bridge more of a punch, or, you know, we maybe speed up on that double chorus at the end, you know, those types of things where the studio doesn't maybe lend itself as much to that. But then again, that's why the live setting is cool too, because you do kind of get a little bit more of that live feel, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely breathability to songs, and that's one of the things I like about certain people recording not to clicks, and you know they're not doing it, but like there's other people where it's like they do record it to clicks and it works out perfectly fine. So it's very like dependent on how it comes out, I guess. But I do understand what you're saying. There's like not that feel of like breathability to a click because it's just very rigid. It's like it's there and it's always going to be there. And if you miss it, it's obvious that you missed it. And you know, luckily with the studio, you can like quantize things and then push them to the clicks, so that way everything sounds like it's directly on or whatever. There's different tricks you can do in the studio, but it still misses that thing where like sometimes when I'm playing with Jesse, like you said, like one of the things I like to do if I'm like really feeling into stuff is I play like, and I don't know what the right type of style to call it is. It's almost just like sloppy. Like you're playing so far behind the notes, you know, like I'm like in the pocket, but I'm like so deep in the pocket that I'm like, there's a hole in the pocket and it's falling down your leg kind of deal. Like it's so bad, but it sounds good because it's this weird, like, I don't know. It's almost like a bluesy kind of whatever. It's people do it and it's fun. And I don't know why I like doing it, but if you're playing to a click, it's like so hard to time that out and you can't get that feeling out there. Or like you said, you want to slow down so the bridge has more impact. Like that's not doable if you're in a studio with a click, or it is, but it's not as easy to just like plug it in and be like, here's the space it fits, because everything's sectioned off in these little quadrants. I don't know. The studio's great, but it's different live.
Yeah. And yeah, to your going back to one of the first points you made is like, but it's also your art, so you can do whatever you want. Like if you don't want the click, or if you want to kind of bend the rules a little bit, like, you know, we definitely found a happy medium, I think, with making sure songs don't sound maybe like too sterile, but also making sure it's not just completely off the rails. Yeah.
I mean, it's the whole, like, you want it to be professional, but also feel organic. You know, you don't want to like overdo it. So it's like, well, this is obviously made in a studio and has a bunch of stuff punched in, or like, but at the same time, that does sound cool. You know, like it's the whole, like, if you want to go for it, you kind of got to go for it. I'm trying to think of like a good analogy for all this stuff, because I keep thinking of analogies for this, but I don't know. They're fleeting. Either way, yeah, it makes a lot of sense though. I definitely feel you on this. This is a conversation I could probably have for a long time, because again, there are, like, I've been in bands that are like, we want to play to a click, you know, or like I've been in bands where like you practice to a click, and then when you play live, there is no click. So it's like you kind of got to get used to everything in a certain sense, and in certain bands, it does lend itself to it very well. But I don't know. Yeah. So let's go on to the next topic here. Anyways. I do have something written down here. It's really, really stupid and it's funny. It could be a just passing thing, but you're Jefferson Fosbender. The other member is Alejandro Trevino, but you go by Jeff sometimes, and Alejandro goes by Alex. So you have these long names that you smush down into short names. I don't know why that's funny to me, but I wrote it down, so it's in there. What type of music would you say you guys are writing? Let's go down that road here.
Yeah, so it's kind of like folk classic rock. Like it's got a lot of like Tom Petty themes. You know, that's my probably main influence, like Tom Petty, Eagles, like Steve Miller Band, that kind of stuff.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's really cool. Alex and I have known each other since we were kids. Like so we've grown up, like we know kind of each other's influences, how you know what we've been listening to over time, and so yeah, there might be there's a little bit of a yeah, just like very very folk sound on some of the tunes where it's just acoustic guitars basically, and then there's you know giant songs where there's like 12 guitar tones, and Alex really gets in the weeds with a lot of a lot of the reverb and like some of the junky pedals that kind of add that texture, and yeah, everything in between. So, but yeah, I would say it's kind of like a folk and classic rock sort of core.
Yeah, yeah. And then, okay, so this is actually going to tie back into what it was before. So when you have songs that are that in depth, it's tough to recreate them exactly as the song is when you play live and it's just the two of you. So like this actually comes back to an analogy I thought of that I forgot earlier. So like imagine you painted like the coolest painting in the world, and then someone's going to go watch you paint live, which it's not really like, it is a thing, but it's not really a thing. And someone was just like, paint the Mona Lisa. And you were just like, I did that and it took me 7 months. And they're like, do it now. And you're like, okay, fine. And you like doodle it up there and it looks really really good, and they're like, it's not the same. And it's like, well, obviously it's, you know, so I guess that would be like the argument. You're like, basically it's two different forms of art, you know, that you can display.
Well, and what I'll say, like Alex says this all the time, and I think it's really essential to what we're doing is we're not trying to create like this hugely produced sort of you know, this big kind of like modern pop like sound. We're okay with a few microphones in you know, a quiet room, just miking up our acoustic guitars, vocals, getting a microphone in front of an amp. Like it's not lo-fi by any means, but it's about as close as it can get to sounding like what we would sound live. All of the songs at their core, you can still hear the acoustic guitars in every single track, no matter what, like no matter how much is going on. And I think that's kind of essential to what the sound is. I mean, when you see us, it's just two acoustic guitars and two vocals. So I think we did produce it in a way to where there's enough similarity to where folks can really pick up. But then there's some songs that just called for, you know, just the most insane guitar tones ever. And I don't know if you've seen Alex play live recently, but he actually brings his pedal board out even to acoustic gigs. So he's running that $100 Cort through basically his electric guitar rig. Yeah,
he's got like a little the input on it allows it for that. It's not a piezo pickup on it, so it allows him to put pedals into it, which is really cool.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, he's got pedals that, you know, it can kind of sound like a pedal steel, where it's just kind of, you know, that whiny kind of, you know, almost like a classic country type thing that kind of just sort of flows through some of our ballady type songs. And then he gets that dirty, crunchy, like junky tone on some of our like harder rock songs and everything in between. It's really cool.
That's really awesome. Yeah, I always thought that would be something fun to do. The acoustic guitar I currently play does not lend itself very well to going through pedals, so I don't really do it. But otherwise, yeah, that's like such a fun trick. I've seen people do that with acoustics where they like put it into some sort of a processor and get kind of goofy with it. And I think that's one of the funnest things live is it's like you get to see basically something that you wouldn't normally see, because a lot of times it's just two guys acoustics straight into a little mixer and away they go, you know, which is totally fine because it works. But it's really fun to see somebody kind of goofing around with pedals. I guess that also might be like the quote unquote, like, what is it, audiophile in me or whatever, where I'm just like, oh, look at what this guy's doing up there. He's like, you're trying to explain it to people and they're like, I don't get it. It's like, never mind.
I mean, Alex already has the wow factor of playing the guitar upside down. Then when you actually get close and this acoustic guitar is running through just this insane chain of toys. and then to see them actually execute it. So throughout the show, getting to actually see them applied to different songs, it's really fun.
Yeah. He's not just bringing them up there for show. That's one of those things. It's almost like the drummer that brings up the too big of a drum set, and they only ever use like the kick and snare and hi-hat or something or whatever. Which whatever. It's, if you're gonna bring it, you better use it. And that's one reason I started just bringing combo amps places, because it's like, I'm not bringing a 4x12 because I'm not playing like Shea Stadium here or something like that, or whatever. You don't really need a big amp anymore. I don't know. But so let's talk about like writing some songs. So like you did, like we talked about it a little bit. You have an album, right? Scenic City, and that what was the core thought process behind that? Because I did see. Did you release some of those as singles before the album came out, or what was your process behind the writing and releasing of that?
Yeah, the album came out March of 24, and the year leading up to it. So like September, October, November, December of 23, we did a single per month. So we did 4 of those songs as singles to kind of just get folks kind of listening and excited about what was coming. And then March of 24, it's a 10-song record. Again, it's a very, what I love about it is it starts with literally just our 2 acoustics. We talk about this on kind of a project we're doing right now, where we put together a little thing, but
we'll get into that.
Okay, fine. But no, so like we literally sat in a room basically like this, like right across from each other, with microphones on our vocals and microphones on our guitars, and we just played the first song live just in the room. And then as it flows into the second song, it just becomes very much so, again, that more produced, recording to a click. And so it's kind of that really fun way of starting the record, basically exactly how we would sound live, and then just bringing all the rest of the toys in, and then we're off to the races.
That's pretty wild. It's probably got to help having somebody like Vino around to like just have the background, of doing this, because if it's just, somebody that just randomly plays and somebody else that just randomly plays, chances are they might not have the ability to record stuff, even though like it doesn't cost very much anymore to record things. Like if you're going to buy a guitar, it's like, well, you can spend half again as much and you can have something to record with. And it really doesn't take like, even so much so where you don't even have to have a laptop or anything like that. You can record with like just hardware and things like that.
And a lot of the, like Pro Tools is what we use. A lot of the softwares these days have a ton of plugins on the back end. And so, all of the work that he does on my vocal, for example, because my vocal's horrible. No, I'm just kidding. When he goes through, he's got these just libraries of reverbs and different, just different filters to run those tracks through. And so it's like, yeah, you really don't, if you've basically got like good instruments and a good microphone, you can pretty much get about as good of a quality sound as you're looking for.
Yeah, it really doesn't even take like super high quality microphones, to be honest.
Sure.
Granted, like you do have to spend some money, but like just like the SM57, like there's so many people that record with SM57, SM58 or whatever, and I've seen people that are like, we recorded the whole album basically with these mics, and it's like, oh, okay, it works, or like we use only these live or whatever. You can spend $100 on a microphone and use it for most anything you need to. It's kind of wild how good it works. Sometimes it's like, I feel like when you're constrained by like, I only have a couple microphones, like that can be helpful sometimes. It can force you to do weird things that you might not normally do that, in the studio, like testing different things or whatever. Have you ever like done that with microphones where you put 2 different ones on a doodad and then you record it and see exactly how like each one sounds slightly different than the other one?
Yeah, Alex has he has a Rode microphone and a Bluebird, and so like every time you're singing in the studio, it's both microphones, and actually he does them side by side now. He used to do it where they were like inverted, and so basically something to do with like how the microphones picked up the audio waves or whatever, but yeah, so there's always at least 2 on there. When we recorded guitars, we used to have both the Rode and the Bluebird on the, like basically around the sound hole and the fretboard, and then 2 like directional mic, like those pencil mics on like to get almost like the ambient sound. And so there's so many combinations that you can do, but, and then we would even maybe go direct in if, my guitar had direct in, capabilities, his didn't, but yet then all of a sudden you've got 2 or 3 or 4 guitar tracks on Pro Tools, and then he does a really cool job of blending them.
Yeah, I mean, that was some of the funnest stuff I remember seeing. Like, I'm trying to remember what I recorded. I recorded something for a buddy of mine, but we had like a dry track, we had the regular whatever track, we had the track in the room, we had a couple different microphones, whatever. We just like went down, and it was weird to see like what you could do with all this stuff, whatever coming direct out of the preamp, and compared to like, having a microphone. It's just kind of weird to see what you can do with that. And every now and then I kind of get lost while watching some of the videos, and I haven't dinked around with this stuff enough to know enough about it to kind of be somebody who's like the voice of reason behind all this stuff. But it was fun to watch one recently where this guy was talking about like why, like, let's say if you're recording something in a room like this, and we're recording like a guitar, if you were to put a microphone like on the other end of the room and just stick it out there and record that too, they just call it like a room mic, or sometimes like an ambient mic where you're just picking up the noise over there whenever it gets there or whatever. But if the thing is, like someone was saying, like if you're standing over there, you're going to hear that noise too. You're not just hearing what's like right in front of the amp, or your ear's not like directly in front of the sound hole of a guitar, or like right in front of somebody's ear. You're hearing whatever's over there, and that includes whatever's bounced off the walls. So you can put that sound in with whatever you're recording, and it kind of makes it sound bigger because it sounds like you're actually in the room with them while they're recording, instead of just being this dry and sometimes sterile sounding only the microphone sound,
Yeah.
I don't know, not trying to give away secrets, but it was like this video I watched. I was like, this is super cool. I've never seen somebody explain it this simply, and it's like, oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense, And again, like I kind of wish I had like a place set up to kind of do this stuff. And like different times in my life, I have had like mini setups, but they were nothing ever permanent. So it's kind of nice to if you have like a little hole in the wall where you can sit for a while and do some of this stuff.
And to your point, going back to an earlier point, it's like it really just comes down to what type of product you want at the end of the day. If you want something that has kind of the very live ambient sounds where if a cat walks in the room while you're recording, you can hear it pitter patter across the floor, or like if someone sits their beer can down on a table, you get all of those little things.
Yeah.
Some projects lend itself to like some of those. Alex swears, he's like, I know for a fact every song I've produced out of this studio probably has like a cat meowing, like very, very low, but somewhere like I wasn't able to clean it, and there's just like cats meowing in the background. But again, like if you're going for some genres lend itself to just the cleanest, crispest like operation possible. And so it's like, no, we have to scrub all of that. We only want, the instrumentation and that's it. So, so yeah, it just so happens our project is very much like a, this very live, authentic sounding thing. So we're not trying to be too harsh on it.
Hopefully we didn't lose everybody with that kind of talk. I know that's some stuff where people are like, I don't sit in a recording studio, I don't know anything about it, I don't want to know anything.
I feel like this is they're getting a look into when I run into you after work in the parking lot behind River Hops after you're getting off work at the Spin Market, and we just talk for hours about like one thing. It's like, oh shoot, it's like 7 p.m. We should probably go home.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, it does happen quite a bit. We'll like, all right, yeah, I got to go do stuff. But anyways, so like one more point, and then there's like 15 more minutes goes by. And it's like, all right, well, I'll see you later. But hey, don't forget about this. And then another 10 minutes goes by.
I think we're pretty, we're definitely guilty of, oh wait, we should talk about this on the podcast, and then we just talk about it full blown in real life, and so it's just like, okay, well now we discuss this.
Yeah. So like one thing I do want to discuss talking about this album, again, it was Scenic City. You can find it everywhere online. Just search Stadium Drive Scenic City. You guys got your link tree. Most of your social media has stuff to that, and you can just click the links on there and whatever. There's links down below. Click them, whatever. I'm going to have social media link tree. I found most of your links, including something else we're going to get into here pretty quick. But you guys did vinyl, and did you do CDs for this as well?
Yep.
Okay, so I always think about this, like what was the thought process behind like doing vinyl?
Yeah, honestly, my dad's a huge vinyl collector, just a huge fan, and there are a lot of kind of vinyl lovers in our circle. And I was like, you know what, this is just kind of a cool way to just celebrate and kind of put a stamp on the project. I also would say the artwork that Isaiah Deegan did for the front of it is so cool. I wanted physical copies regardless, because I wanted folks to be able to kind of have that artwork to share. And yeah, anymore, CDs, folks aren't maybe necessarily listening to CDs these days, but on the inside, we put a QR code that goes to that link tree. And so I almost considered them more of like a business card than anything.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, take this for $5. Like, we know you probably will never even play the CD, but now you have all of our information in the inside cover of this.
Yeah.
And so it's like to me, it's more of a promotional thing to say, hey, like, this is a way that you can come see a show. If you enjoyed what you saw, then it's more of just kind of a keepsake. And if you don't play, if you're not like a vinyl fan, it's still a cool piece of art that you can enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have one of the vinyls. I had to make sure to get one. That was one of the things and I've talked about this before. Maybe this is just sidetracking again, but like, how many times have you had somebody in like some band thing or whatever it happens to be, and they're like, we have these things, and you're like, dude, I gotta get one, and then you wait, and then they're gone, and you don't get one. Like, how many times has that happened?
I mean, to me, luckily, it doesn't happen to me. I guess I think the projects that I like, they must just get a bulk amount. But
no, I mean, like, the one I was thinking recently was like, I saw somebody in a Love Bomb shirt, and I was like, I wish I would have got a Love Bomb shirt, and they're like, well, we're sold out. And it's like, damn, So like, I saw them once, didn't get it. Maybe I didn't have cash, I forgot, whatever. I left before I got one, and then but the next time I saw them, they're gone. It's like,
well, we have plenty of like all the stuff that we've got, because now we've got like shirts and stickers. But I will say there is kind of a cool thing about getting like an ultra limited release, just say like, when it's gone, it's gone. And I mean, and the releases will still be that way. I don't intend to, if we run out of anything that we've got, minus shirts, I'm probably not going to do another order. It's just like, I do think there's something to be said about kind of doing that limited kind of thing where it's like, yeah, sorry, you got to go find one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Trade with a buddy.
Yeah, no kidding. I always thought that was really fun when bands did that. A lot of times I saw it when they were spoofing something, or it's like, I don't want to say like copyright infringing, but it's like if you're just kind of borrowing a logo to make a shirt, it's like, we made 20 of these. You get one or they're gone. Like, and we're not making any more because we don't want any trouble. So like, or something like that. You could do it with like a hat, or do it with like some weird wristbands or something. Like, I don't know, whatever it happens to be. But like, those are sometimes fun. I think about that with like the stickers sometimes, where it's like, I've gotten some stickers where it's like, I only got these, and there's only once have I ever gotten these. So there's some of these out there on places I see them, and I'm like, I only ever got one shipment of those. That's awesome to see.
Cool. It's like a stamp collector. Like, you got like a little binder.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I have put out a lot of Audible Farm stickers though, and that was something we recently talked about with stickers. And did you say you got some stickers too?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So, my buddy Jake in Chicago made what is now basically the Stadium Drive logo, I guess. And so it's on the shirts. And I was like, I wanted a sticker that, again, we could put that QR code where, whether you're tagging, a bathroom stall or a light pole or whatever, that, if it's just intriguing enough and it's got the QR code on there, now you can actually go and like see what it's about. And so, he whipped those up. We just got that shipment like a week ago. So
that's cool.
I don't even think I've taken them to shows yet.
Oh, cool. So you got some stickers in the mail then, huh? That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, stickers are one thing where like, I always feel, this is going to sound really dumb, but like, to me, they were like a business card. Like, I never made business cards for this podcast, which was kind of stupid. I probably should have, just to give them out to people or whatever. But at the same time, this was kind of just like nothing more than a ludicrous runaway hobby. So like, I was always like, well, I have stickers, and then if they want them, they can stick it to something or stick it to somebody else, or like you put it on their coffee mug or their water jug or whatever the heck, I always try to say, like, if you're going to put it in public, put it wherever there's another sticker, you know, try not to have it be like the only one out there unless it's like in a okay place. But that was the other fun thing, was just to like give them out to people, or like, you know, guests or whatever happened to be, and then see where somebody else might have stuck one. You know, it's like, I didn't put that there and somebody else put it here. That's freaking awesome. There's a few of those around too. So I got to get some stickers. That's one thing I've always been a big fan of, is other people's stickers. So whenever I see you out and about with some stickers, I got to get some from you for sure. But to put the QR code on there was pretty genius too.
Well, and again, to me, I'm like, I'm always just, to have a band, you know, we're very fortunate to be in a music scene where there's just a lot going on. And so there's a lot that folks can go out and see, and a lot of entertainment that folks can go do. And so it's like, you know, to try to differentiate, we're just always trying to think of ways that we can sort of, you know, get our stuff out there. And we made music that we're proud of. So it's like, hey, if folks see the sticker, basically we're like, let's make sure there's no questions. It's like, hey, if you want to know what this is, like, here's the code and it'll take you there. Like, yeah, you know, not fumbling around on Facebook to try to look the name up and is it Stadium Drive Music? Is it Stadium Drive like band? Or and like, so it's just like, no, here's the code, just go for it.
Oh yeah. So like, I will say that we're getting into like, we're gonna blend this into it. So you do have a podcast. It's called Stadium Drive, the podcast. So
I'm coming for you, Peter. So
yes, you are. But this kind of brings us into something. So like, we talk about like marketing stuff, because I do work at a marketing place, and you work. I would say like adjacently to something that's kind of close in the industry. You work in economics, so like it's kind of close. But this is something I do want to say. Like, when I searched for your podcast, it was not easy to find. You have to search Stadium DR period the podcast, not Stadium Drive, because there is a couple Stadium Drive podcasts already. But I did find it, and the easiest way I found it was on your link tree, which is something we had talked about, how like you can kind of use your link tree as a website if you don't have a website, because you can just put all the other stuff on there. Yeah, it's awesome. It's amazing. You guys have one, you use it. It's one of my favorite things about your band, is the fact that you have one. So like, it's awesome knowing your QR codes go there, and it's awesome knowing that you can go there and find the podcast from there, which let's talk about the podcast, because you had mentioned it a little bit earlier. So your podcast is Stadium Drive, the podcast. And what's the goal of this? Like, why are you doing it?
Yeah. So I might have mentioned it earlier, but, you know, we were getting some questions about just, you know, what do these lyrics mean? Or, you know, what made you decide to record this way? Or, you know, just kind of throughout the year that our record's been out, we've just had some folks wondering about how it was made. And I think there's always kind of I think people just have a fascination of like learning how things are made. You know, there's so many shows out there, like, you know, there's one literally called How It's Made. Yeah. And so Alex and I, we were driving to Wisconsin for a gig weekend about a year ago, and we were throwing around this idea of like, what would it look like if we basically took the 10 songs on our first record and did a 10 episode miniseries, going song by song, talking about just kind of the cool stories about how, basically how we produced it, maybe some fun stories about us playing the songs live in, you know, in real life, and talking about some of the gear. And so right around this time, we also were working with Lincoln Batcher. Do you know?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you know Lincoln.
Yes.
And so
we talked at a jam night for like half an hour about microphones and stuff.
Yeah.
Actually.
No. Well, so right around this time, project that I'm a part of, the Reforge Initiative, I'm on that board, and so we host a gala every year where we basically do like interviews with community leaders and business owners. And Lincoln had bought this gear where basically all of the visual components of those interviews and all of the audio from the interviews basically goes to one interface. It's super simple to edit and kind of switch from angle to angle, those types of things. And so with the podcast idea, going song by song, and then knowing someone who had literally just invested in the gear that we would need to make it happen, we pulled Lincoln in and we're like, hey, is this something that you think we could do. And he was like, sure is. And so we posted up in Alex's studio for a whole afternoon. It took us like 5 hours, but we did all 10 of the episodes in one day.
Oh, wow.
Not editing, but we just back to back recorded all of them. And yeah, it was kind of cool to go back and talk about some of these songs that we recorded. In some cases, we recorded over 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
A lot of those, even though the record dropped in March of 24, we started recording, I think, in April of 23. And so, so yeah, a lot of those songs were kind of a long time coming. And the visual component of the podcast, if you go and check it out on YouTube, there's a camera angle on Alex's laptop. And so there are points where he like switches over to his Pro Tools app and is basically able to show, when he's talking about reverbs and, how certain songs were cut or how things were leveled. You're actually able to see it on the screen. So he cuts to that the angle there, and Alex kind of walks through some of the tools on the back end. So
That's cool.
So yeah, but Alex and I, we agreed, we were like, man, there were some things we even forgot, from back then. So it was kind of a cool little thing.
Yeah, cool to like refresh yourselves on it. So like, you kind of talk about like, exactly what this is, but like, what's the end goal on this? Like, just kind of inform people, or is it like another outlet for just to be like, I don't know. I think about like bands back in the day used to be like, well, here's the album, and then in the background we're going to do like a mini video of us partying, or they always did something weird on the side that was just like an extra thing you could get. Maybe it was for like the fan club, maybe it was for whatever, but nowadays everyone's just making content for the sake of making content, which makes enough sense. But what's like the end game on this? Is there like some background kind of goal with this, or to like repurpose it in any capacity or do anything with it?
For one, it was just a fun thing. It was pretty low, like pretty minimal stretch to do. It's just, we just got to hang out with our buddy Lincoln for a day. And, but I think underlying, there's basically two main goals. One is hopefully folks check out the podcast and maybe it drives them back to the streaming platforms to say, hey, I actually haven't heard that song in a while. I want to go spin it. Or maybe, they hear it and they're like, shoot, you know what? I never picked up a vinyl. I'd love that. So that's one. But then, we're aiming to put our second record out in August. And so we kind of did the math, and there's a little bit more than 10 weeks between now and the time in August when we're looking to put the record out. And so we were like, well, what if we use this almost as a springboard to kind of get folks excited again about, what we have going on. And, cause it has been over a year. By the time the second record comes out, it'll be about 1.5 years since we released things. So it was just kind of a way to kind of get folks excited again about what we have going on.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's also kind of neat that like every single song was going to have a companion piece to it. So it's just like, here's the song, it's 3 minutes, and then here's the video, it's 20 minutes explaining how this 3 minutes came to be, sort of.
Yeah, it's like do you remember those DVDs where it had like the director, like, like they would have like the narrating,
the comment,
the commentary, it's basically that, where we just talk about the making of it, and it's the song's not playing in the background, but like I said, it was kind of an easy lift and something we thought could be, again, just unique, something that we hadn't seen anyone do. And like the Wicked Things have their podcast, and obviously you've got this project, but it was to have like a very intentional kind of like mini series, almost like a full piece. It has a beginning and an end. Like it's not kind of an open-ended thing. So
yeah, it's a serial piece. Was that how you do it instead of episodic? It's serial, so it has a start, it has an end, and you have to watch it in this order for it to make sense in theory. So, but not necessarily.
No, there's imagine if we just divulged that there's like a whole plot to the record. It's like you have to listen to the third word of the second verse, and that'll, if you put them all together, it says something in Never mind.
Yeah. All right. So if you're looking for this podcast, again, a good place to find this is on your guys' link tree, which there's a link to down below. Otherwise, search Stadium DR period dash the podcast. I know it's like a mouthful, so just click the link down below and go that way.
Well, and that actually maybe highlights why we chose Stadium Drive. You know, the DR period. Obviously, it's the street name. You know, the studio's on the little cul-de-sac across from Dodger Stadium, so where Stadium Drive is. And so there were a few bands that were called Stadium Drive when we were first kind of wanting to put together this piece. I think there's a band like in Ohio that does like Nirvana covers or whatever called Stadium Drive. But
hell, there's a band called Audible Farm now. Like,
yeah,
get ready, I'm coming after you.
Yeah, but no, it was one of those things where we were like, do we want to like fight this every time we, you know, have to tell people what we're called, you know, and it was one of those things where we weren't, it wasn't big enough of a deal to kind of pivot so much that we're like, well, let's just go with the DR period. You know, it's the street name. It's pronounced Stadium Drive, obviously, but I don't think it's too big of a leap. And if you want to call a Stadium Doctor, then that's fine too.
That's pretty awesome.
Stadium PhD.
Stadium. Whoa, cool.
Yeah, right.
That is awesome. Yeah, you could go somewhere pretty wild with that, honestly.
Because I know it's not a huge deal to like have the same band name as someone, especially if it's like, you know, a pretty big leap. But
yeah,
we're like, you know what? Let's just kind of go a different route, and I think it. To us, I think it fits.
Yeah, it's a nice way to stand out. I mean, that I looked at, like, I think your YouTube handle is that like Stadium DR period, and like the YouTube handle allows you to put the period in there. I don't know at the end. It just seems weird to me that it would be at the end, but it's in there, and you have to put it in there to make it work. But it works. Again, there's gonna be a link to that down below as well. But it's pretty cool. I mean, like the podcast thing is definitely something I feel like you don't even really have to like think of it as a podcast, but think of it as like some sort of a mini series and have like a reason for doing it. And as long as there's a reason for doing it, it's kind of has some sort of merit to you as a band, or like, again, I talked about this in a recent episode where I was sitting alone. I was talking about marketing and stuff, and like you can kind of make your YouTube channel look like it's a cool actual thing instead of just like, you know, the typical YouTube channel of like, there's just like a generic thing here. There's no banner, there's no real links, and there's just like one line of like, it's just called videos. It's like, that doesn't look very professional, you know? But I did go to your guys' YouTube channel, and I see that this is a playlist on there that you guys can go check out. So that is also pretty cool that you guys are doing that. So that's one of the, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, speaking of YouTube, what I thought was, and we haven't talked about this yet, but we use DistroKid as our streaming distribution platform.
How do you feel about it?
And honestly, I think it's been really easy to work with. I think they do a great. I mean, we pre-master everything, so we're not using any of their audio, like we're not using any of their tools, enhancement tools. Yeah. But I mean, it's super quick. They've gotten our stuff out like relatively quickly, I think. But to your point, I think what's really cool about that service in particular is if you check the YouTube music box, they automatically upload your songs to your YouTube page.
Bingo.
Yeah, and it's all the video is just the album art and the song.
Yeah.
But it's like that's one thing where it's like you go to our YouTube page and it just looks like there's something there. Like
Bingo.
I hate going to like a band page and there's like one video from a live show, like from a phone that's like shaky and blurry, and it's just like so yeah, it's just another way that we're just kind of we're just stacking our content so you can find us literally no matter how you happen to stumble upon it.
I love how each one of these, it seems like one tiny little secret comes out of every podcast of like a good little tip or trick. So that is something that...
Wait, you're not going to tell people my secrets, are you?
Well, yeah.
Can we cut this?
Yes, we're going to edit this out. No, like I've used whatever Reverb Nation used like 10 plus years ago. It was horrible. Don't suggest it. And then I used CD Baby once, and then I used DistroKid the last time. And then since then I kind of just set it and forget it. But like DistroKid, when I used that, was like the easiest. It had most of the built-in features, and that was the coolest one I noticed was when you distribute distribute your music to YouTube Music. They make a video for it on regular YouTube that is just the still frame of the album art. And so if you want to find that, and this is going to sound really crazy, you type in whatever band you're looking for, and then you go space dash space, and then type topic. And I don't know why that's what it is, but that's usually where a lot of songs where, like, if you upload an album and somebody listens to it on quote unquote YouTube Music, that's where they're streaming it from. And you can like find a way to basically like marry that quote unquote channel together with your actual music channel and put music that's actually yours on your channel and make it look good that way. And I don't know, again, this is just stuff that's like a little bit of extra work, but I'm sure there's people out there that are like, I don't know how all this stuff works. Well, that's how it works. So,
and you know, Google is your friend. So I thought for sure that it would ask me, you know, what my YouTube channel was, and it just didn't. Like you said, it goes up there as just like a music topic. And so I just Googled, how can I get my music topics on my YouTube page and to where it's actually my like playlist.
Yep.
And it's like, here's how you do it. And it's like, okay, thanks, Google.
Bingo. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one thing, and I want to kind of like just bring this up. Like in the marketing podcast I had, I just like, maybe I I glossed over it too much, but like I spend time, like I'll go to somebody's channel and be like, what do I like about their channel? And how do, like, oh, they've got one of these. How does this even get on somebody's, or like you go to their Facebook or whatever, and you're like, oh, I like the fact that they like announce shows every Monday, the week's shows. It's like, maybe I'm going to need to do something. Like, you just find little things that like, this looks kind of cool, or how do I do this? And you just type it in the internet and it just tells you how to do it. And it's really not terribly hard. I mean, you can ask people. That's the best part about our community is most people, there's no secrets. Like you and I talk about this a lot, where it's like, we talked about some stuff you can do with Linktree that like I had done that you hadn't done. So it's like, I showed you like, this is what it looks like if you do it. And you're like, oh, that's cool. And now you know that it exists, and you're the kind of person that'll just go out there and figure it out and do it. So like, sometimes it's just talking with people about this stuff or comparing and just being like, what do I like about this that I think I need to step up my game in? And a lot of times it feels like it's like, oh, this is going to be a lot of work. And it's really not a whole lot of work a lot of times. Sometimes it's just to set it and forget it. You do it once and it's done kind of deal.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I love that idea of, just like idea sharing and building off of, I'm a long-time listener, second-time caller, but, a lot of times you talk with the folks on the show about, just that idea of like a non-competitive community of musicians that are kind of in like regionally, I guess, this idea that we can all sort of coexist and we can all be a part of a really cool and supportive music scene. But I think part of that is learning from one another. It's like, it's not that like I'm better than you or you're worse than me. It's like, no, I like, maybe I'm doing something that, to your point, it's like, oh, I never would even have thought of that. Like, and you can kind of build off of, and I think when someone has maybe a standard or like something that they're doing, that's actually really cool. It's like, you should almost want to, it's like, oh, now I want to up my game so that I can be kind of in that same tier.
Yeah. I want to try something like that, or like this idea with your podcast, it's like, I always thought about this, like if you just called it like a series or something else, like this would be like the coolest thing ever. And it's not that it's not cool because it's called a podcast, but like you don't think of it as a podcast. If you're like, I don't listen to podcasts and I don't understand how they work and I don't whatever, I don't know why you're listening to this if you don't listen to podcasts. But
yeah,
this is like a video series more or less. You can find it online.
It's like a chapter book. It's like if you had an Audible book or a audio book and it had like 10 chapters to it, that's basically what this is.
Yeah, this is the liner notes in video form for your last album, which is really kind of cool. And it allows you to do something fun, like the same thing for the next album. Or you can use this as like a learning grounds to do something completely different. If you even don't want to do that type of thing with the next album, you could do something else, and depending on how this quote unquote podcast is set up, you could do lots of other stuff with it. Podcasts are really kind of fun, which is why we're doing this. But yeah, so let's kind of like pan down here. Let's see how much time we got in here, because we're like, oh geez, we're soaking it in. So I do want to talk about some other things. Like you do play live shows. You play live quite often. I've seen you a handful of times. I've gotten lucky enough to go to a jam night and play along with you before. One of my favorite things was we went to a jam night once, and this is so funny. So like I always think like I have the greatest hearing ever or whatever, but I do not. It's pretty good, but like I've misheard this a few times at a show. So like I've heard people asking me if they're going to play Can't You See, can you play Can't You See? And I'm always just like, I don't know what that is. So like what my ear is hearing is they're saying, do you want to play Kansas City? And I'm looking at them thinking like, this person is not somebody that I think is going to bust out the song Kansas City. So I'm like, I don't know what this Kansas City song you're thinking is. And then, right into it, I'm like, oh, they're saying Can't You See? So that happened twice. That happened with you, and it happened again. I believe it was Zach Sunkin at Jam at like Dakota City or something like that. So, so it happened to me twice, exactly the same song, and once with you. But I've been lucky enough to play live with you out. But one of the things I've noticed is you've been playing live in like Wisconsin and maybe even like Minnesota and stuff like that. Like, what's the goal of going out of the region, here? Because it's comfy here. But there's, what are you just stretching your legs trying to see who else likes what, or just do you know enough people in these areas where you can kind of have like, I got a buddy over here, so at least we kind of have like a home base sort of, or like how do you working all these gigs out?
Yeah, the main gigs in Wisconsin are actually from where my dad grew up and where my grandma still lives, and so I still got family up there.
That's cool.
One of my some of my relatives actually own a bar up there, but it was one of those things where I was up there for like a family trip, and we dropped into a place, and I was like, "Hey, y'all ever have live music here?" And they're like, "Yeah." It's like I throw my name in the hat, not thinking much of it. And then yes, slowly but surely we kind of started making connections. And the way Alex's schedule is set up, he's in like 20 bands right now.
Yeah.
And so Stadium Drive, this is to no fault of anyone's, but there's a very finite amount of weekends. And so I guess what I try to do is, if there's a weekend that Alex is free, I basically go and like we pick a city. It's like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're just going to go and we're just going to basically do a 3-show run on the road and then come back. That way, because I know if he's got a tank show one day in a weekend, or a Lone Tree or Brutal Republic, whatever it might be, it's like, well, if we can find a free weekend, let's just get 3 of them, and then maybe we might not play for another few weeks, but we kind of front load it. And so that city in Wisconsin, we ended up making a ton of really cool connections. We played once, and then basically that was it. And so it was really cool to get some fun feedback and get invited to some other places. From there, we got recognized, or we got invited to play up in Green Bay this year. So we're going to be up during the NFL season. We're going to be playing a giant brewery up there.
Sweet.
We're actually bringing Cole Smothers, who's drumming on the second record. He's going to come up and do a little 3-piece with us.
Cool.
Rochester, Minnesota was weird. That was actually like there's a brewery in Iowa that has a connection with a brewery in Rochester, and somehow they just shared that, like, we had played the Iowa brewery, and they're like, hey, we have this like really cool community up in Rochester. Do you want to go check it out? And we're like, heck yeah. So that got us into Rochester. From there, we went to Minneapolis, and we just showed up at a brewery's doorstep on a Sunday, and we're like, hey, we got all our gear. Can we like play a set? It's like we're not going home yet. And so we played a brewery in Minneapolis. This year we had plans to kind of try to get into like Kansas City or like the Omaha area. So just trying to hit the bordering states.
Yeah, the Omaha area is a fun area. There's a lot of music there. That's always been a place that has a lot of talent, and I've always kind of looked at that as like I don't want to say like a little oasis of sorts, but yeah, like I remember there was a few times I'd gone to Omaha just for fun, just to be like, I'm going to go to the zoo or the botanical garden or whatever. And at nights I always went and I was just like, where's there an open mic night? And believe it or not, you can find one basically every time I've been there. I've been able to find one every night that I wanted to go to one, which is pretty awesome. And sometimes they're really fun. I recall going to one, and it's always a mix at open mic nights. You get some people up there doing comedy. There's like some guy up there that was doing funny stuff, and some guy that was doing magic, and somebody that was doing other stuff. But like, I remember there was this 2 guys that went up there and they played a Tenacious D song, and then they played a song where it's like, this isn't a Tenacious D song, but it feels like it should be, and it's like, and they're like, yeah, that's an original. It's called, Meatball or something. And it's like, what? Who? oh, this is crazy, So like always thought Omaha was kind of a fun area to go to, but
Speaking of, I went to a jam night in Kansas City one night. It was at this brewery, and I don't know if maybe they just didn't promote for it or if they had a mix up on the days, but this guy came and he set up his PA, and he had a couple of instruments or whatever, and it was a pretty slow night. I think I ended up being the only other person in the whole brewery who knew how to play the guitar, and he was like trying to get people to come up and sing and play, and so finally I was like, all right, well, I think I'm the only one here that and he had kind of just been locked on. He could tell that I was like paying attention to the music, so I go up and play. All of a sudden, a guy from the back shows up with this huge bag of harmonicas. He's got like one for every key, and all of a sudden we start playing "Can't You See" in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And just pick the one. Yeah, pick the one that everyone knows. Yep. And then all of a sudden, like it became kind of a hang. But it was to that point, it's like it's kind of fun to go to a different city and just kind of where you're not maybe as known or comfortable or kind of stretch the legs a little bit.
Yeah, it is pretty fun. Some of that is like I'm trying to think of like where's the weirdest place I've been to a jam or played with somebody or like whatever, but those are the kind of things where it's like I was trying to tell myself nobody here is ever going to see me again if I don't want to, so like it's not that big a deal, so I always thought like with those it's really not too bad, or like generally speaking with like jam nights and things like that, it's like whatever. Did you go to the last jam up at Patty's?
I did not.
Jeez,
I heard it was awesome.
What a bum.
Yeah, that's on me. That's on me.
No, I went. It was fun. It was a fun time. I left at like 10:30. Usually they ended around 10, and there was still plenty of people like clamoring to get up there. So I assume it went late, just like whatever. It's last one for the season. They're coming back in the fall, I'm sure. Taking the summer off is normal, but yeah, there was a lot of people there playing. I got to play a few tunes. Got to play with Tim Chipman. Super cool. That was kind of the running joke because I saw that he was in the house band. And I was like, sweet, I know Tim. Believe it or not, Couchtown Coffee. The guy that makes that's Tim Chipman's son. So that was pretty fun.
That's cool.
That was. I was like, ooh, this is. I don't really know him. I do know him. We've talked a little bit, but it's really fun. I got to play some songs with him, and it was. I don't know. That was the other thing. I got to play with a whole bunch of people I'd never played with before. Got Dean Davis on drums and stuff, and I even sang a song, which is not typical of me. So
that is like the coolest platform to, like you find yourselves playing with people that like you never ever thought you'd play music with, and everyone's so like accommodating and gracious too. Like when you've got Gene Walker up there, just like absolutely like going on the bass. Along with like legends on the drums like Dean or Anita has been coming to some. Anita Johnson has been
she was
coming
at the
playing
last
some.
one.
Yeah, it's like it's like shoot, we're cooking here, and it's with folks that you never thought you'd maybe play with.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite seeing the younger kids get up there and play along. Like I don't know, just seeing how they react to being around other people and stuff, and how they interact with the other musicians. And I feel like the younger kids, I see a lot of myself in them. I don't even really want to call them kids because they're young adults, some of them. Yeah. But like, I feel like they've got a lot more poise than I did at their age.
And they're like growing a lot too. I've just from the first jams that they would come to. Like I've been on the stage with them when if you're talking about Love Bomb,
or there's a few others, but
there have been nights where basically it's me and Love Bomb.
Yeah.
And in the very beginning, they're just they're like, okay, what are we going to do? And now I think they're kind of like settling in, and it's been really cool to watch them kind of grow in that space.
Yeah. To push them to be something maybe more than they thought they were going to be, or something different, because it's like, I don't think when they first started playing songs, they were like, in that punk band era or whatever, because this is my thought, I guess, when I never thought I'd be playing the songs I'm playing now, or like you get up there, it's like, go ahead and play Can't You See, and they're like, that doesn't rock, and I just I would have been that kid, and that's where I'm saying, the youngsters have so much more poise to want to be like involved in that capacity, even going to like Evan Pratt's open mic night, there's people there trying everything from like comedy to whatever, but it's fun because every time I've been there, I've seen a couple people I've never seen before. Some are local, some are not, and that's like also the crazy thing about it. It's like oh wow, I went to this open mic night. Somebody from Mason City came down and played classical guitar and just crushed it. Everybody was just like super quiet while the whole thing was going down, and it's like, what the heck, this is amazing. It's that's just so fun to see people like that just kind of stretch their legs and go other places.
And yeah, I think what's really cool about it, if you want to be a career musician, or if you want to be doing this for a long time, I think it's really healthy to play things that are maybe out of your comfort. Like Alex and I, again, going back to, we were in the Tank Anthony band for a while, and it's like he and I might not have ever seen ourselves playing like quote unquote country, but now all of a sudden we're in this group that, and to be fair, that was more of like a rock band most nights. We really got after it, but yeah, it's like, I think that playing different styles sort of, it helps you learn different technique. It helps you learn maybe the relationships between, concepts and things. It kind of helps maybe connect dots that you wouldn't otherwise connect if you're just in one genre and you just insist on only playing one certain thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it comes down to stuff that's as simple as like, well, between the verse and chorus, there's usually a fill, and the fill sounds like this. Like most genres have their own sets of those, or like even as far as like some of these fills are the same but different, so they have the same rhythm but they're different sets of notes, and it's like, oh, I never really looked at it that way, and like, it just comes down to like, I've done that because at certain jams like Dakota City jams, every now and then, I'm not a bass player, but I like relieving bass players, or like if I have to, like there's occasions where I've played bass with Jesse because it's like, you've got enough other lead stuff around. I'll just play the bass because nobody's playing the bass. So I'll play bass, or like with some other people, and it's fun to throw in some stuff, and then you find yourself interacting with the drummer in a way you haven't normally interacted with them, and you're like, oh yeah, these are the things you would normally fill in if you're going to go this route on these types of songs or whatever. And you can kind of feel the drummers going in with it, and the experienced ones because they're the ones that are throwing in the different styles of fills in between songs, and you're like, oh, this is how I should be going, passing from one note to the next or whatever. I don't know, the whole thing is just kind of fun. Like you said, you just learn new things being around new people, and that's what every musician should kind of strive to do in some capacity.
It teaches you to listen so much. It's the folks who you can tell, like folks who are thinking about their instrument alone versus the folks who, they have their head up. It's very much so something, it's like, keep your head up, listen to what's going on. It's one of the purest forms of like a very team kind of, like where everyone has to do their part, but you can't do just your part. Like you have to do it in conjunction with the rest of the group.
You have to do what you're doing, but also be aware how it fits in with what everyone else is doing. And you kind of have to be aware of what they're doing.
Yeah. If you just went up and were like, I'm going to play Wagon Wheel now, I'm going to play the guitar and sing, and you guys just do your parts, it's like, well, okay. Like, it's a group, it's a band. And so yeah, I love that because it's taught me a lot, if anything, just how to, I think it helps me, even when I'm playing with Alex on songs we've played dozens of times, it's like when I'm more in tune with what he's doing, it helps my performance because I can kind of play off of him, and I can, but that listening skill is not something that a lot of folks just have, and I think that has been the most, that's what I've grown the most on going to jam nights, and it's hard.
Yeah. Okay. So that's so perfect because it's like, not just playing music with other musicians is more about listening than it is about playing, is basically what you're saying, which is like genius. First off, it also made me think about like the first couple of times I went to play at jam nights, I'm just like staring down at my feet, like I'm not looking at anything, I'm looking straight down and just like, no. And then you realize you have to make eye contact with people, and it's the people that are on stage that you've been watching the whole night going, wow, these guys are good, holy cow. And then someone's like, you want to get up there, child? And you're like, okay, sure, I guess so. And then so you get up there, and then you're just like, I don't want to look any of these people in the face, but you have to because you're up there. That's how you communicate,
Bare minimum, you have to look at their head. Like I got really good being on stage with Alex for a few years with Tank. Even though he's playing the guitar upside down, I could look over and see his hand and know kind of what he's doing, or he's shouting the chords across the stage. But it's like, yeah, you just have to have your head up, because if something's about to hit a bridge and it's like, okay, we're gonna go to the minor chord here. If your head's down, you're gonna miss it. And so yeah, it's all about, and also it's just more fun. It's like, hey, we're literally creating this from scratch, like right now. This is kind of a cool thing, it can be stressful, but it's also, there's just something really cool about that.
Yeah, and it also brings into the thing where we're talking about like, oh, well, you kind of have to know how to play the style of whatever, but like that's also the fun part about jam nights. It doesn't have to be that way. Like sometimes, like you'd mentioned Wagon Wheel. It's like, well, this is a song everybody knows. We've all heard it a billion times. There's a couple different versions of it and a couple different styles. And it's like, what if you just tag everything and solo on top of, like, just squeeze one in everywhere you can get it for no reason, and just make it kind of a funky song or like whatever. And like that's another thing. Once you get musicians that are that good, you can have one person call something out, and all of a sudden it's just like the dynamic goes down, and you're just like, you hear just the bass, and all of a sudden, like, there's just goofy things that happen when it's situations like that.
What's been really cool is, so we're playing the Saturday of Frontier Days, and so I've recruited Cole. Cole is the Stadium Drive drummer now, and I asked Owen if he wanted to play the bass for a couple gigs this summer. And for the couple of rehearsals we've had, it's one of those things where, yeah, when you have folks who are just great listeners, obviously great musicians, but yeah, you can start calling songs and say, okay, I know y'all have never played this. We certainly have never played this together. Let's just see how it goes. And it ends up just being like, honestly, not that bad. but it's like, yeah, it's because everyone's locked into what everyone else is doing. It's not, I'm about to solo here and I'm about to crush. It's like, no, it's like, let's make sure we're taking care of each other. So yeah, it's definitely, it's something that opened my eyes up a lot and made me a better gigging musician by going to those jams and learning just how to listen.
That's so fun. That makes me think about, like, did you ever think about when you first started playing music, how like it's not like it's super hard and couldn't do it or whatever, and it's not like it was easy either, but there's this point where it's like this is definitely a challenge. And now it gets to the point where it's like, as long as I've heard a song and somebody requests it, I could pull it up on a laptop or something, or on my phone or a tablet, and be like, this is what somebody says or the chords, so I could probably go, and you can actually kind of fake your way through it, and it just doesn't really sound that bad, most of the time, which is kind of crazy, just generally speaking. I haven't heard a whole lot of songs, and that sounds dumb saying, I was a musician, but like people are just like, can you play this? And I'm like, I've never heard this song, and then I have to like tell Jesse, like, you ever heard this song? Yeah, somebody requested it. And it's like, okay, cool. But like, he's one of those guys you can say something to in about 10 different genres over about a 50-year span, and he's probably heard the song and he can try it, and it's really kind of fun, because like you said, as long as you got somebody up there kind of controlling everything, the rest of the people just kind of have to fill in the gaps, and you can kind of fake your way through it to the end, and it's really kind of fun. I like
to be
that.
clear, we're definitely going for an end result that is better than not that bad. Like we definitely have like a standard of excellence that's like, but I guess to your point, it's kind of more in a pinch. It's like I sent a video of myself and a bunch of folks playing at the jam night a couple months ago, to someone who had never been, and goes, there's no way you guys just have never played music together. And it's like, yeah, that's in the spirit of what that event is supposed to be. There are folks who show up to that and it's like, there's no way they didn't rehearse this. And it's like, yeah, but and that's not a skill that folks just have. It takes time, I think, to get comfortable in those scenarios, but yeah, it's really, really fun.
Yeah, I guess like I was thinking mostly like, say you're playing like an 8 to 11 gig and it's 10:30 and somebody drops a 20 in the tip jar and they're just like, play this Garth Brooks song, and you're like, that's not one on our set list. I guess let's look at, we could play this. All right, let's give it a whirl, guys. And then you do it, and it actually sounds really good. But that's kind of where I was going. Maybe not just like, I was trying to downplay it quite a bit, but at the same time, like, it is kind of fun because sometimes there's the strikeout and miss, at those two, though, where you're just like, all right, well, one chorus and we're bailing here, buddy.
I was going to say, yeah, Alex does that quite a bit, where someone will be pretty adamant about a song, and I'm like, I don't know how to play it, but I can sing it. And he goes, I don't know how to sing it, but I'll play it. And I'm like, word. And then we do like a verse and a chorus. And then it's like, all right, let's get out of here.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not doing this whole song.
Yeah, I mean that's fun too, though, when you can just kind of like appease the crowd and do that kind of stuff. I don't know. That's the other thing I think the jam nights kind of teach you is just the malleability of everything. Like you kind of have to be fluid with what's going on, you know, whether it be the crowd or whether it be the people around you changing, and that's something that I think our area excels in quite a bit. You know, you can see it in some of the bands where like everyone's in multiple bands. Maybe they got a booking and you got to fill in somebody with somebody else, or, you know, there's a lot of those types of people in our area that just kind of go from one band to the next. And it's not like job hopping in any sense. And it's not like they're leaving because they don't like things, but it's just kind of sometimes, you know, things change, you know, people get busy doing one thing, you know, life changes for other people and they take a break for a while. And when they come back, they have to do something else, and they do. And it's just kind of, I don't know. I always like that about this area, how everything just slowly kind of changes and morphs over time. I don't know.
Yeah. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, we're singing songs and drinking beers and like getting paid to do it. Like it doesn't have to have like rules.
Yeah. It's not a complex thing here, not rocket science or anything.
I was just talking I can't remember who I was talking to, but you know, there was, you know, something, you know, obviously there are challenges to this, and certainly, you know, gigging and traveling and doing music either part-time or full-time, like, is not like easy, but it's also something where it's like every time I get stressed or if I know someone's getting stressed, it's like, hey, look at what we're doing right now. This is like, our lives are very, very awesome. We sing songs and play guitars, and people give us dollars for that. Like, this is a very, very cool thing. So
people clap for it.
Yeah, I try to like put things into perspective sometimes, where it's like, yeah, sometimes it's stressful, but it's also like, no, this is actually kind of a very silly life.
That's so fun to think of it like that. That's a great way to kind of end this podcast, because I'll tell you what, like the last jam I played at, I remember like you've played before too, and you're just like, man, I crushed this, or like I did the best I could on this, and you feel so great about like the end product or whatever, like playing a song or like whatever, a singing part. And then sometimes when somebody cheers after you did it, you're just like, yes, like this is so fun. This is why I'm doing this, you know. And it was, I don't know, the last jam I did that, and I played like a solo section in a song, and I was like, man, I kind of like, this thing was good start to finish. There was no like weird bits or anything that seemed like it was too slow. And, you know, like that's kind of how my brain rationalized it. This was pretty good. There wasn't too weird bits. But anyways, when it was all done, everybody, you know, the people were clapping. I was like, they clapping for me? Like, that's so cool, you know?
Or like the opposite, you know, when you come off the stage and you didn't feel like it was good. And like, you can sit around, you could sit the whole rest of the jam night at the Hideout and be like, man, I had like 3 songs up there and I like forgot the words, or like I wanted it to go faster, but the band took it slower, or like, you know, you can do all these things, but it's like, or it's like, hey, you just made music for like a hot second with people that are very, very cool. Yeah. And in a place that's very, very cool. Yeah. And folks cheered, and like, it doesn't matter if you like nailed it. It's like, it's all about perspective to me. It's like, I certainly don't think I'm like headed to like celebrity anytime soon. Like, I'm not doing this for fame. It's like, we're doing this because we love it, and we are making things that we're proud of. So
yeah, I think it's just the minute idiosyncrasies of it all that make us self-conscious about it. Sometimes we're like, I wish I would have done this. And it's just like, well, you didn't. You did what you did, and it was awesome because other people liked it, you know. And there's, how many times have I told somebody, I was like, this was sweet, and they were just like sitting over there in the corner like, man, I sucked the whole time, you know. And then somebody tells them it was sweet, and then they're like, oh, well, that was cool. All right, cool, yeah.
Well, and we could dive all the way into like how it's live music. Like, it's a moment in time. And so it's like, hey, well, you played that note, and it happened, and so now the next moment's happening, and so it's like that you're creating kind of an experience. It's live for a reason. It's not curated. It's not this like, you know, very well thought out thing. Sometimes you just forget the words to Wagon Wheel, and it's like, well, you know, that happened, and then you move on. But
yeah. Dude, I love this. I could sit down and talk with you forever. This has been over an
also
hour of great stuff, and I do want to say thank you very much for taking some time out of your day to play this, because you did just get done playing a show last night, right, in Wisconsin? Or was that?
Yeah.
That was,
Or no, I was in Des Moines last night.
you were in Des Moines, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I remember seeing something about you were playing somewhere.
Which,
So
by the way, it was like the beer mile for single speed, where it's 4 laps, 4 beers, and I'm like, you're watching these folks like chug beers and run distances.
Wow.
If you're listening
imagine.
to this and you did that, you're a legend.
that's crazy.
Very silly.
I would not be able to do either one of those very well.
Yeah.
Chug 4 beers or run a mile. Maybe one of each, and then I'd be down for the count, man.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is really good.
Yeah.
Jefferson, again, I'm going to put all the links for Stadium Drive stuff down below. Click the link tree. That's my favorite, because it's just everything's right there. And if you like the idea of having a link tree and having all of your links in one location, because boy, oh boy, wouldn't that be nice? Maybe borrow the idea and perfect it, and get some examples
It's
off
free.
get some examples off the link tree right below. Click on it, check it out, see if it's something fun, and then click on that podcast too. Because yes, I did watch a little bit of one episode. It was the very first one, and just to get a reference point to talk to you about what was going on. So I got to go back and finish that one. But there's as we're recording this, there's 2 out, 10 in total. So we're gonna keep going on those, and then new album, new music, new stuff in the future. It's all on the social medias, so be sure to check it out. I got, again, links down below. Jefferson, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Always great talking.
All right, there we go. The episode is over. I love sitting down, sitting, talking with Jeff. Just a good day sitting here, and before and after the podcast. It's always one of those fun things where you get and sit and talk with them about other things. And, I see your channel has this. I'll show you how to do this, and I have that on mine. And what do you think about this? Oh, you can do these things. Here's some places you can do it, and here's what it looks like, And I think that's one of the benefits of having done a lot of like social media and things like that for, either different bands that I was in, or just for this podcast. You kind of get to see the inner workings of a lot of things. And, we talked a little bit about that in here, the different ways you can kind of link up your music onto your YouTube channel, and just all sorts of fun stuff like that. And I think that's one of the cool things about dinking around with all this stuff, is kind of getting it all organized in a way where it's easy to find anything, no matter where you're at. And so I guess if there was advice to take out of this, it's, Google it. If you're curious about something, you can Google it, or find something you like somebody else is doing and find out, how to make your stuff kind of look like that, or put your spin on it to make it your own, and then go from there. There's no shame in that, and borrowing a good idea and putting your spin on it and making it your own. So again, great episode. Thank you, Jeff, for sitting down talking with us, and thank you everybody that listened. Thank you to the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association. Be sure to check out their podcast, FDT. Again, the episodes are, you can find them right from their website. There's a little podcast link in the corner. You can find it there. They're on YouTube. They're on Apple Music and Spotify and all this stuff. They're basically everywhere you can listen to podcasts. So if you want to watch them, they're on YouTube. Check out their YouTube channel. Give them a subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube here, give us a subscribe. All the good stuff. Wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, thank you guys very much. If you need anything else, Audible Farm, like one of these hats here, I still do have a couple left. So if you need a hat, hit me up. Audiblefarm.com for basically everything else. Patreon for episodes a day early. And that's it. Thanks, everybody. Peace.